Hi, and welcome to the Gold Factor podcast, Summon Your Greatness. I'm your host, Bernadette Gold, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to turn your dreams into reality. Even if you believe that your dreams can't happen, sure, it can happen for everybody else, but not for you. Well, today's guest, Megan Flanagan, is here to share with you how she did just that. She didn't necessarily believe that her dreams could actualize. So she shelved them for a long time. But she's here to share some of the things that worked for her in hopes that it gives you some idea of how to turn your dreams into reality so that it's not just a dream. It actually is an achievable goal that you take action on. So, hey, Megan Flanagan, how are you?
Hello, Bernadette. I am great. I'm so excited to be here because this is a story I can tell.
Awesome. Megan is someone I met through one of my Charm Life Masters, and then she became a Charm Life Master. She's here to talk about what she went through. So, pre-Charm Life, what was going
hmm
on with you? What did you want? What was keeping you from having it?
So I was in I would say mid 20s, mid to late 20s. I was freshly out of a pretty painful divorce, settling into normalcy and finding my routine again. And life became stable again, and I was recovering from that. Did a lot of therapy. I was in a fairly grounded place. Met my now husband, and we created a nice little life together. And he and I were doing well, but other areas of my life were just not satisfactory. My mom had joined Charmed Life about a year before I did. I tend to be more skeptical. I want to see that the proof is in the pudding and know that people really can produce the results that they promise. When I started seeing the changes in my mom's life, I thought, okay, this might be worth a go because while I was happy in my relationship, I was super unhappy in my job. I graduated college in one of the worst years you could graduate as far as finding a job. It was in 2010. Working my butt off for a okay wage, and the environment at work was just so toxic. So I was not happy or fulfilled in that arena. My health wasn't in great shape. I had some decent friends, or who I thought were decent friends, but as I began growing, I saw that they were really only comfortable with me playing small and in a
Mm,
certain place.
ouch.
Yeah, yeah. And, I knew I had these kind of abilities, we'll say, for lack of a better word. At the time, I didn't really know how they operated or how to explain them, but I knew it was something I wanted to explore. And in looking at all of these different areas in my life, I would try different things to try and gain traction, do all the things they say about you get up, every day, get up early and you make your bed and you stay positive. And I could not gain traction in any area. And I thought, I'm not broken, so I must be doing it wrong.
So you're talking abilities. For those who don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about, exactly what abilities are you referring to?
Oh, sure. Psychic gifts is what we would call them. But when I was younger, I would say, well, I just can really pick up on a vibe in a house, or I'm around a person and they're just really off putting, or I'm around my friend Jane and she has such good energy and I just feel so comfortable around her. So that was what I would later come to recognize as clairsentience. But I just felt like my energy was being pulled every which way. hmm
Intuition. You have
Intuition.
strong intuitive.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
hmm
Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Nope, nope, nope. So yeah, I decided to jump into Charmed. I think you and I spoke in December of 2020. So really January of 2021, about 2.5 years ago, is when I hit the ground running. And my life has never been the same. Oh man, it's been incredible. It's been really incredible.
So, what were the main things that you wanted to change in your life at that time?
Number one, I wanted to buy a house. And, the pandemic was in full swing. My husband and I had been trying to, kind of focus on cleaning up credit and saving a little here and there. But we really wanted a home. And the first thing I focused on and charmed as far as turning my life around and creating the life that I want was a house. And when I tell you that the market was utterly cutthroat at that time, and we ended up finding a house that ticked every single box on the list that I wrote, and it wasn't even listed on the MLS. The realtor just said, "Hey, I have this set of friends they want to sell their house, but they don't want to post it. They don't want to list it on the market."
Right.
I knew because those are the kind of synchronicities and avenues that the universe opens up when you're following charm life principles.
If I remember correctly, that wasn't the first thing that happened. The money
Mm-hmm.
started to flood in before,
Mm-hmm.
like, your money was kind of tight.
It
Um,
was.
even though you guys were making great money, it was paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. We just didn't know how to hold on to it. And that is a tricky lesson when it comes to financial management, because if you can't learn to hang on to the money that you have, it doesn't matter how much you make, it's going to just funnel right
Drain
back
out.
out.
But
Mm-hmm.
then big bonuses came. I remember that was one of the first wins, was like, oh my God, I got this unexpected bonus at work.
Oh, yeah, huge bonuses. And my husband was cranking in the clients, and gifts came outside of, normal expected avenues like paychecks. We would get gift certificates to restaurants, and hey, do you want to come stay at my family's cabin? I mean, when you don't limit the universe and how you are open to receive, you will be blown away at what shows up.
Right. Okay, so you guys got the house, and
Mm-hmm.
then I remember you got a car too.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be
Yes.
jumping ahead, that may have came after, but a bunch of other things happened. And when you got done with working on, I want to get a house, and that's important to us, you got your dream home. That
Mm-hmm.
was an insane synchronicity ride.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you work on next?
I was not happy in my career. I was working from home for a healthcare organization that was a nonprofit. And if you worked in healthcare during the pandemic, like, God bless you for surviving that, because oh my gosh, it was hell. It really was. So I was working from home, feeling pretty isolated, and just realizing that even though I was kind of rising through the ranks, I was very unfulfilled. And the corporate grind was just such a stress. I remember my husband would occasionally be home and hear me on meetings and just say, like, who is this work version of you that is just not authentic, that plays this game? And I'm like, I don't even know, but I don't like her. It felt so gross to me. And I mean, if that's where other people excel and thrive, more power to you. But the point is, it was not aligned for me. I felt like I had to be somebody that I was not. So I said, okay, universe, I am ready for something else.
Right.
And boy, oh boy. So
And your mom was
my,
in Charm Life at the same time,
she
had
was.
like she had manifested and created her dream home. They
Mm-hmm.
were able to buy the business that her husband was working for, and that was their big dream for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then came your breakthrough.
Oh my gosh. I kid you not. I was sitting out on the back deck one evening after a stressful day of work, and I told my husband, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. I'm ready for a big change. The very next day, my mother came over and said, well, since we are going to be buying the business, would you ever just be interested in coming on board and helping your stepdad run it? And I thought, all I know is healthcare for the last 11 years, but I have a lot of really strong transferable skills. I know zilch about construction, but if I'm paying attention to this feeling in my gut, that feeling like you've got horses like at the reins ready to go, I better do this. And so I just said yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Absolutely. I'm so much happier. I have more freedom. I feel like the work that I put into this business is directly reflected in I mean, yeah, there's the monetary aspect. It's performing really well, but the employees are happy. We have great employee retention. We pay people really well. It's important to me that people feel valued. So being able to give back in that way is, I feel really grateful that we're in a position to do that and to be able to support my family and my stepdad, help realize his dreams.
Right.
It was just utterly synchronistic and such a blessing.
So look back for a moment and upon reflection, one of the things that I know you and I had talked about before starting the podcast was about how you did not believe that your dreams could come true. Why was that? Like, what were
Mm.
you thinking? And how long did that last?
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize how much of a hold that belief had on me because logically, I know I can do all these things. I can create the life I want. I know if I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I start at A, go down this road, and I'm going to land at B. But I had all of these subconscious beliefs that I couldn't really do it. The world was a scary place. I had a lot of trauma from childhood that said, no, 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 no. You don't go out and create. You don't develop who you are as a creative, authentic, spiritual being. You survive because if you take risks, you can get hurt.
Ah.
And the most amazing piece of this was I didn't even realize that that was a belief I had because it was subconscious. And the work in Charmed helped me uncover it. And while it was uncomfortable when I was unearthing that muck, getting rid of it has allowed me to unlock my dream life.
What'd you have
Truly.
to do to get rid of it? Was it
Look
hard?
at it. It was hard when I was first uncovering it and figuring out where did this come from? What were the memories I have associated with it? What is the belief that I've formed and how is it showing up in my life? Like, that's not fun. But once you make the decision, this isn't serving me. I'm done with it. That was then. This is now. Bye bye. You can let it go effortlessly, but you have to make the choice and fighting the ego and the programming that comes up surrounding letting go of these limiting beliefs, that can be the challenge. So in your course, you really, really help educate people how the ego and the inner child compete for attention in an effort to keep you safe. But the problem is these things that they're trying to protect you from, they don't exist in your current reality.
Now, you
And you
said
have to
you
be able
went
to
to
let it go.
therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much did
Oh,
you
yeah.
know about the ego, the inner child, how it was affecting your current life, all of the circumstances, all of the events you've been through? How much did you know about it when you were in therapy? How much did they tell you?
Big fat zero, like nothing.
Okay.
I mean, not at all. And the thing is, for years I tried talk therapy, CBT, and it just did nothing for me. Well, let me rephrase. It was helpful to have somebody sit there and be a witness to the pain that I was in, but they never gave me constructive tools on how to get out of it. And then when I was in a really, really dark place, I will say this one therapist truly did save my life at that time because she taught me some very practical skills surrounding emotional management, and that is DBT, dialectal behavioral therapy. And I will always give credit where credit is due to her for that. However, it is limited in that it kept me alive. It taught me to be aware of my emotions, how they show up, and how to self regulate. But I didn't know jack diddly about how to create the life I want and
Or how to
identifying
change your
blocks.
mindset.
Absolutely.
So we talk in Charm Life. I mean, we do use DBT, simplified form of DBT. I use a lot of
Mm-hmm.
tools. Um, and I know you learned that. You also learned EFT tapping
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of other release techniques and coping techniques. But when you actually were able to change your beliefs because you understood where it was coming from, was that a big
Mm-hmm.
breakthrough for you? Was there more that happened for you? What did you do and how did it click in your head? Because for everybody, it's different.
If we look at the home, like buying a house at the very beginning, so I had limiting beliefs like you're never going to be able to make the money for it based on the way that I grew up. And so I would look at, where did these messages actually come through? Did it come from my mom? Did it come from my dad? And once you've identified that belief, tapping into the emotion behind it and doing the EFT tapping clearing. I'm a big fan of that modality in particular. For people who've done trauma work, I've done EMDR. That was helpful. For me personally, nothing has moved trauma out of the body like EFT. So, for example, getting back to the house, I would look at times of scarcity in my childhood, or frightening beliefs about there not being enough. Or, I remember when we first moved to Oregon when I was just a kid, we were so freaking strapped. We ate nothing but ramen and grilled cheese for a month. At the beginning of my 8th grade year, I felt so unstable. I felt unmoored. I didn't know what was coming next. So going into that memory, tapping it, like, even though I have these ideas about scarcity and I'm not sure what's going to happen, I fully love and accept myself, and actually removing that energy out of the body. Then when we pull up that memory of having to eat ramen, it's not emotionally charged.
Yeah, it's neutral.
Yeah.
Even though you were making the money, you weren't saving the money, is because it just felt like it's it's never going to happen. Why bother? And you just kind of pissed it away on immediate stuff instead of putting it away for that big goal of buying a house. Is that right?
I would say so, because if we have the belief that, well, we're never going to be able to be organized enough and be diligent enough and disciplined enough to save for a house, we may as well enjoy life now. And again, it's a coping mechanism, like that short-term instant gratification. I bought that new sweater, I click that button on Amazon, and that gives me that dopamine hit, and that's way better than looking at my money crap and trying to untangle that nest.
How do you feel about money now?
Um, it's funny. I love money. I love money. I don't worship money, but I love money. I'm grateful for money because it is the tool that allows me to live and create the life that I want.
Yeah. Do you find that it does amplify? Money just amplifies who you are?
Oh, yeah, because you have the resources to be able to express authentically.
This is all about summoning greatness, and these are the things, these conversations that are real, I think, that people need to hear, because so many times we think we can just bury what's happened. I'm not going to face it, and if I work hard enough and put enough hours in, I'll be successful. But people, especially like entrepreneurs, don't understand, and any kind of leader, if you're not facing those things, they still have an effect, and they affect the way you speak to others. They have an effect on how you hear others. Like, it will twist it in your head, going through your filter of unresolved hurt and trauma, and you're really not hearing what's being said. So we can run from it and let it continue to block us, and we can continue to miss the opportunities to get the things we say we want and have the experiences we say we want, or we can face it. There's that. And you did.
Yeah,
But I
I
remember
did.
there's been a few times that you've gone through some big breakthroughs, and I'm so
Hmm.
grateful that I get to be a witness to it, right? Because the one thing and let's make this perfectly clear, because we're mentioning charm life, I don't do things for people. Like, I don't get you through your trauma. You got to do that
Hmm.
work, but I am there
Oh,
to
yeah.
facilitate it and create a safe
Hmm.
space for it and give you the tools and the coping mechanisms and the insights for you to be able to get through it in the fastest way possible with the most ease. But you did this and faced it with so much courage. And I remember there are times you're like, I don't want to do it. And I'd be like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
but do you want to do it? Let's do it right now. And then 10 minutes later, literally 10 minutes later, and it's over. And you're like,
Hmm.
that wasn't so bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were some dark, dark night of the soul moments. But I am so grateful for them, because I realized, at those moments, they didn't kill me. They weren't going to kill me. And I was creating so much of the pain just by resisting looking at it. So, number one, I lost somebody. Well, I chose to part ways with somebody in my life that I really, really loved. It was a friend of mine who I was just crazy about. We connected on so many different levels. This person really felt like a sister to me. They were also interested in the same kind of spiritual aspects of life. And as I started growing and succeeding in charm, this person slowly began to either become a different person or the mask started to drop. Decide for yourself. But it would just turn into barbs that would be thrown in conversation. And I felt like, am I crazy? Like, what is happening? But I was elevating. If I was going to reach the level of greatness that I had foreseen for myself, that person had to get off at the next stop. And I was hanging on to it. I didn't want to let them go. I wanted to make them fit, but they didn't change. I did. Even if I realized the issues that they had within themselves were not about me, because of my unhealed abandonment issues, I just couldn't let it go. But when I finally did, the space that it created in my life for healthy relationships, people that truly support you and lift you up, absolutely made it worth it. So that was one thing I went through.
How much energy did you get back by ending that friendship?
When I finally decided to let it go and forgive this person and send them off with love, grace, and compassion and get over all of my ego throwing a tantrum on the floor, so much energy back. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how much of myself I was still pouring into that old situation, telling the stories, listen to me, listen to what happened, listen to what they did. Even if it's true, you know what? Spinning that story is not serving me anymore. And it's not serving them. And if I really am a compassionate person that doesn't want to see anybody suffering, I will close my mouth because that's hurting me. And I will stop talking about them and what they did to me because it's hurting them. So once I let that go, release the need to tell my story, it opened up again, just more room to create. One of the most difficult things I had to unpack, I did deal with childhood abuse. And a lot of these memories were very veiled, very fuzzy, because it wasn't as drastic as some of the stories you hear, quite as horrible as some of the pain you hear about other people going through during their childhood. I thought, well, okay, then what happened to me obviously hasn't had any effect because it wasn't what that person over there went through. But then I looked at some of my patterns of behavior and programs and unhealthy beliefs. And when I started unpacking these, it led back to these traumatic events and being hurt by someone in an authoritative position over me when I was at a very young, impressionable age. Allowing myself to go back into that was probably the most frightening part of that process. Not because I actually had anything to fear, but because my inner child, little wounded 11-year-old Megan was just screaming, like, don't look at this. Don't go back here. This hurt us so bad. And I said, okay, you know what, honey? I see you, but I'm 35 now. We're grown and I've got your hand and I'm going to protect you and I'm going to look at this. You don't have to. And then I decided to lift it and clear it.
What happened as a result of that? What opened up for you?
I've dealt with chronic health issues nearly my whole life, and finally clearing that crap has allowed me to be in my body. And people may not really understand what that means,
Hmm.
but I had resentment and anger toward my body, didn't want to be in it, didn't enjoy experiencing the world in a physical way. I think part of the reason why I wanted to expand on my spiritual gifts is because, oh, isn't it so convenient that I get to pitch out of my body and I don't have to be here? So, yes, while my gifts are valid and real and they'll be a part of how I, operate in the world, it can't be used as a coping mechanism to avoid dealing with the trauma.
How is your health now that you've dealt with those things, the scaries?
My health is improving vastly. I have tried getting started working on my health before, since I've been in Charm Life within the last 2.5 years, but I wasn't ready to look at the root cause. And now I
And when you
finally
say health
am.
issues, you have, what
Mhm.
are the conditions that you're addressing?
Okay, well, I ultimately was diagnosed with chronic late stage Lyme disease, but before that, it was everything from psychiatric disorders, fibromyalgia, IBS, possible rheumatoid arthritis, tendinitis, endometriosis, migraines. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And the crappy thing of it is, if you bring that list into a doctor's office, they're going to look at you and go, oh, okay, we're going to put you on some antidepressants. Have you thought about talking to someone? And I'm like, I'm depressed because my body's falling apart and you think I'm crazy.
And you're young.
Um, yeah. Oh my gosh. I was at like 28 when things got really, really bad. But I mean, I've dealt with this stuff on and off, I'd say, since I was a young kid, even before puberty. But again, my mother, God bless her, was diagnosed a few years before I was, after walking a similar path with healthcare in this country. One day when my wrists hurt so bad, I could not work. I couldn't type because they were so inflamed. I saw my primary care. They said, we're going to refer you to an orthopedic surgeon. And I'd had surgery on my wrists before. I saw the ortho and they said, we ran your labs. There's nothing actually wrong with you. So have you thought about antidepressants? I walked out of that appointment and into the parking lot. I was so mad I could spit nails. And I called my mom just crying and angry. And I said, fine, I'll get tested for Lyme disease. And I came back positive like
It's better to
corn.
have Lyme than to be psychiatrically unsound.
Oh my gosh, yes. Either I am utterly crazy
Yeah.
or I have something that people just don't know about that and they can't get help with. And it turned out to be Lyme.
Well, it's
So,
interesting because we've had a lot of different, experiences in term life with people with chronic illness
mhm,
that doctors couldn't do anything about and suddenly start to resolve because they get through some of the big blocks that they've been carrying, some of the big traumas
mhm,
that they didn't even remember. One of the things I know for a lot of the people that are in there that we go through, and I went through the same thing, we'll have missing years. We can't access memories for a certain amount of time. Like I think from age 6 to age 12, there was like a blank spot in my memory. Did you have that too?
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I would look back at certain periods in my life and I couldn't recall anything. I really, really didn't know what was going on in my life or how I was feeling. It was like it was just a blur. And interestingly, the most recent span of time I can look back on was right before I split with my ex-husband, and I was getting so sick. I was putting on weight really fast. My limbs felt like they were weighed down with cement blocks. My mental health was really suffering. And I was also going through a massive trauma with a family member at the time.
Yeah.
I think there's no connection there.
If you had one big pivot point in this journey that you've taken so far, what was it that finally clicked in? Or when was it? I don't know what you want to share, but what was it? Because I know all of us have like a pivot point where it's like, wow, I finally get it. Now, and let me preface this by saying that doesn't mean that you don't achieve dreams like you were having breakthroughs. But I know recently there was this comment you made of like everything just clicked. All the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I'd been learning, all the things that I'd been applying, it all just
Mm-hmm.
clicked and went to a whole other level. What happened?
Through the process of recreating my life, it was a little bit uncomfortable identifying the things that had to go, that weren't serving me, that I was hanging on to for dear life. And so it took a while for me to get to this place, but really it's so simple. And again, I know it can read as really trite, but the realization that the most authentic way I can exist in this world and the way I can serve others and myself is to be the energy of love. And you have told us that from day one. I am telling you, the universe tested me in ways people would not believe, in ways that you would think it was a movie script.
Right.
I'm not kidding. But when I finally got it, and the universe kept testing and testing and testing me, do you get it? Even in the most dire of circumstances, when your ego's screaming and your inner child spilled her ice cream cone and she's crying, and things around you are just coming unglued, where is your anchor? Is it love? And do you know it? But more importantly, do you have the ability to be it, even in the eye of the hurricane? And when I finally said yes and began embodying that energy, it's like, okay, this is going to sound funny and dramatic, but you know that scene in The Matrix when Neo like wakes up and, you know, he's been fighting and fighting and struggling. And then he just decides, like, no, I'm not operating through life like this anymore. And the bullets that have been fired at him, they just slow down and they drop. I
Right.
thought that was just the neatest, most magical thing when I saw that movie, what, 20 something years ago. But that's kind of what it's like. So being able to embody love toward myself and toward others, and in the way that I approach anything in life, is what's completely unlocked me. And it's not easy. Sometimes my ego, she throws a fit, and it's really, it cracks me up, because when I'm out of alignment with this energy, I'm at the point now where it becomes so apparent and so uncomfortable. And if I start acting against my highest, most authentic self, which is to be and express love, that gets thrown back in my face so fast. And I think, oh yeah, I did create that. Let's go back to love. And I'm grateful for that.
If something is even triggering, you lean in with love. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get angry and fight fire with fire. You lean
Mm-hmm.
in and you love and accept what's happening, right?
Yes.
And you
Yes.
love the person that maybe
Mm-hmm.
is triggering you. You don't have to like the behavior, but you can still love the person. You can still find a way to be in that energy and being of love, regardless of what's
Yep.
happening around you. And when I tell people that before they've really experienced it and had that moment of it clicking in, it really locking in,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "You're out of your mind, Bernadette." I'm like, "You don't understand. It's going to make a huge difference. You hit a plateau,
Mm-hmm.
it will quickly move when you realize, oh, I wasn't being in love." Like
That's
if
right.
there's one thing that I can tell everybody, and it's the one simple truth that even Jesus tried to teach that
Mm-hmm.
got bastardized. Just
Mm-hmm.
saying.
Oh yeah, I think
The
he'd
one
agree with
truth
you.
he said, I'm going to give you one commandment. You do this one thing, all the law's fulfilled. So forget the
Yes.
law, do this one thing. But that one thing was so big to people, they just dismissed it. And here it is: love one another as I have loved you, thus fulfill the law. Love
Mm-hmm.
one another. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
like what they're doing. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to like what's happening. You don't have to like the words. But if you love and you're in, and love is an action too, it's a state of being.
Yes.
But love is an
Mm-hmm.
action, love is a choice. Love is where you give it first, whether it's to yourself or others, you give it first and choose to stand there, which is the opposite of fear, the opposite of anger, the opposite of all the icky, selfish behaviors. Choose to
Mm-hmm.
come from that place. There's nothing that can't be resolved.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And people think, okay, well, where does that actually show up in my life practically? Well, I will tell you, it's easy to love the people that you care about and to say, oh, yeah, I love myself. But when I'm scrolling through social media and I see my Uncle Gus just going off about something that just initially would have ground my gears, I'm going to stop and say, you know what? That is his perspective. And I have no idea what he's been through in life or what has brought him to this set of conclusions, but I may not condone these beliefs, but I'm going to send him love.
Love sometimes is being quiet too. Being loved sometimes
Oh,
means zip it. Just
yeah.
zip
Mm-hmm.
it. You don't need
Mm-hmm.
to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes being loved means not taking an action that you would impulsively normally take. And those are the
Mm-hmm.
hard times of retraining your behaviors and patterning. Any parting words of advice to people that maybe are going through and realize a lot of what Megan's story is I resonate with. I want a dream home, or I want a different career, or I want to feel like I can be in my body and not try
Mm-hmm.
to get out of it, whether that's by numbing it with food or alcohol, or
Mm-hmm.
numbing it by meditating all the time so you're not
Mm-hmm.
present. You know, what would be a thing that they can actually think about or take action on today that will start moving them in a new direction?
I would tell them you are precious and you have divine gifts and you have a purpose in this world. And don't let the things that have happened to you and the people that have hurt you prevent you from becoming your most authentic self. Because I didn't think I was capable of these things, but I did it because I committed. And if you're thinking, yeah, that's a great story, but that's not me. No, 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 no. I was you. You are me. You can do this too. If you commit to it, I guarantee you will see the changes and
That's
you're
good
worth it.
advice. And absolutely, whoever's listening, she's talking to you. If you're like, well, it sounds like she's talking to you.
I'm
Like,
talking to you,
talking to
friend.
you. And I want you to hear this from me. There were so many times in life that I thought, I can't. I just can't. And there's times when that voice comes back to this day. It
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
ever go away. I don't want anyone to think you reach this pinnacle of confidence and self assuredness and who you are, and you're living your authentic self and you're living your best, highest self, and you're not attacked by those doubts. No, they still come. The
Oh, yeah.
difference is I don't heed that voice. And I know my ego's a liar. I know she is. I get it. You're trying to keep me safe, but from what exactly? From what? Embarrassment? I've embarrassed myself most of my life and have the most fun doing it. So I'm
Yeah.
good with it. Like, back off, sister. If you're thinking, well, I don't have confidence and I doubt in myself, yeah, we all have. Don't let it
Mm-hmm.
stop you. Don't let it
Mm-hmm.
stop you. Don't let any of your fears, any of your doubts stop you, because
Yes.
there's a whole realm of possibility waiting when you're willing to do the inner work. And that's what I had to do, Megan. That's what you had to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? To
Yeah.
realize, yeah, okay, I can be my authentic self. And with the tips she just gave you, let me just give this to you as well. The minute you start to believe that you can be authentic, you have permission to be authentic, that being you is not a bad thing, and you get that there is only one you, so you might as well be it, like, fully,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Is the minute you can start to unwind all the things holding you back from that, and start to part ways with the people who are keeping you from being that. And that's a
Yes.
topic for another show. So thanks
Mm-hmm.
for joining us. It's been really fun. Thank you, Miss Megan, for coming on. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you. If you guys liked her story, like this conversation, show your support, hit that like button, leave us a comment, tell us what you want to hear and what you liked about it. Please share this with your friends. You never know, because we all struggle secretly. You never
Mm.
know if one of your friends or one of your family members needs to hear that getting over past traumas, achieving your dreams, even if the dream is just to buy a home or just to change careers, they may need to hear that it's possible. And this may be the thing for them. So please share the episode. I'll see you all in the next episode. Be blessed, be a blessing, summon your greatness.